Welcome to a very drizzly afternoon. And of course, this is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live. Good afternoon, and again, welcome. It's very drizzly here on this sunset safari. My name is TAYLA, and on camera with me, we've got David. Now, it's very grey and glum this afternoon, but we're not going to let the weather get us down, because we're going to find the Nkuhumas. So how could your day be glum and sad when you're going to see the Impalas? Let's just turn this right down, because we know what that means. It means that the rest of the crew are out and about, also attempting to look for the animals. But we're going to find them first. And something that I'm also doing this afternoon, as we drive along this newly graded road, which is quite nice after a little bit of drizzle, is that we're going to go past the area where I saw that serval very briefly this morning and see if it hasn't perhaps come out of hiding. And we're just getting to where we saw it, so I'm going to keep my eyes nice and open, or nice and wide and open, to have a look for them. But so far, the only ones I've got is a big herd of Impala hiding in the thicket, and that's not a bad place to be. You can see some of them are leaping around. They've got a bit of a spring in their step, as it has stopped. Well, it hasn't been drizzling for the last few hours, but it has started again now. But it's really just a fine mist. You can see a couple of them still wagging their tails around, so that hasn't stopped the flies, this weather. It seems as though they're still out and about. It's very quiet, not too many birds out chirping either. Right, let's carry on. Now, of course, you know that James is out with us this afternoon, and Brian and the Thumb. And I'm not even sure what the Thumb is this afternoon. I've completely forgotten. But of course, that'll be a surprise in a moment's time. Now, I believe James was singing. I don't know if I've got any good songs today. Not that I can sing, but perhaps I shall attempt to rap, but I'll need to prepare a rap this time. I'm not feeling as spontaneous as I was the other day. But we'll think of one. We'll get a good one. Maybe I'll rap about this rain. Or the Nkuhumas. We can make a rap about the Nkuhumas. And I've got lots of surprises for you when we eventually find them again. I found Amanda kindly helped me and told me the name of what I'd like to call Little Floppy Ear, but I won't tell you just yet. We'll wait till we get there, and we'll see if you like it or not. Hopefully you will. I think it's quite sweet. I'm carrying on along here. My goodness. Now, I haven't seen any signs of that serval, unfortunately, so it looks as though it's still in hiding, but that's okay. I know someone who isn't in hiding. Let's go across to James while I try and get over this ginormous mountain of sand.
Right, good afternoon everybody. For those of you who didn't watch the pre-show ridiculousness, my name is James Henry. Brian is on camera. Hello, Brian. Would you like to describe your Thumb to us today?
It is a...
Hang on everybody, we have much rain, so there's a rain cover.
It is a woodland ninja.
A woodland ninja?
A woodland ninja thumb.
Why wouldn't it be? And could you explain what's going to happen to it over the next few days?
To celebrate Movember, it's going to grow a potent moustache.
A potent moustache.
Oh, yes. All right.
Very nice. Now, that's enough silliness. We're on serious safari here, serious sunset safari. Those are some buffalo over there. Please talk to us. Hashtag Safari Live, questioned at WildEarthTV. It was a pretty active morning, so I'm hoping for a pretty active afternoon today. We'll see what we find. We're doing our sort of traditional foray down to the south to see if we can't pick up tracks of Karula, see if she came across, especially on a day like today. It is quite possible. Then we have seen a couple of elephants off to the far side of where we are now. but I don't think we're going to be able to get to them without making a tremendous amount of noise and perhaps sinking into a seep line. So we'll just sit with these beefies for a little while and see if the elephants don't come a bit closer. And that is about all I have to tell you during the course of this greeting. Now we can get on to the serious business, Brian, of biology. I do have to tell you, of course, it was supposed to be 25 degrees Celsius, 77 degrees Fahrenheit. It feels, I suppose roughly that when the wind isn't blowing. I also have to say that while I was going for a little run today, and the southeast wind was blowing rain into my face, I thought to myself, I've so often said to you that we don't normally get rain from the southeast, and it normally comes from the northwest if we're going to have a big storm. Well, I mean, look, it didn't storm today. This is definitely frontal weather, but we've had a good amount of rain, and indeed the southern Sabi sand is in a great state of celebration because they have had their first proper rains of the season. And that means all of these buffalo, or some of them, some of the Impala and some of the wildebeest herds, remember we've had 5 or 6 different wildebeest herds here, and some of the elephants as well, will start to spread out a bit. So this incredible boom time that we've had over the last little while, unfortunately, is probably going to come to an end. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to see interesting things, but we're just going to have to look a little bit harder. These buffalo will eventually congregate into their larger herds as well. I mean, I have never seen a time when we had buffalo herds of sort of 10 or 15 animals. It's very odd. And if you are joining us for the first time and wondering what's going on here, we're broadcasting to you from the Kruger National Park, the western edge of the Kruger Park. And there is a collection there of private reserves called the Sabi Sand, and we're on one of those little reserves called Djuma. We traverse Cheetah Plains to the far east of where we are now, not as far as Vladivostok or Beijing, not even as far as the Mozambican border, but we traverse a little place there called Cheetah Plains, and then to the west, Arathusa. And all in all, that's about 10,000 acres or so, 3,500 hectares. Now, Debbie, you're in Vancouver and sort of picking up on a theme that I've been case. Normally, if you read a textbook, and of course animals are very poor at reading textbooks, and so they don't really learn from the books how they're supposed to behave. But if you read a textbook, they will tell you that during the summer months, when there are little puddles of water all over the place and food is plentiful, the herds will split up slightly, and you'll get herds around this area of sort of 100 to 200 animals, maybe 50 at the sort of very smallest. And then during the winter time, when the food concentrates and the water concentrates in permanent water holes or down on permanent perennial rivers, then you have a situation where the herds split up a little, at least congregate together, and then they get very big. Now, what happened this year, I think, is that the drought was so bad that those much bigger agglomerations, because we did have them for a little while, split up into much, much smaller units of that sort of 10 or 15 animals that have disappeared off the edges of their herds in desperate search of food, because they just simply were unable to move in those big numbers because there wasn't enough food for them to eat. Now, coupled with that is that the grass has run out. We've had some rain, but if you look, if Brian just shows you the length of the grass over here, you can see that it is very short indeed, and some might say non-existent, but that's about the longest that it gets there. Now, a buffalo's grazing strategy is to use its tongue. It wraps its tongue around long grass leaves and then pulls them into its mouth. It has very limited ability to crop short grass like, say, an impala or a steenbok is able to. And that means that they have been spending their time browsing. Now, they can browse intermittently, but remember that the leaves of grasses and the leaves of trees have got a totally different suite of chemical compounds in them. And the leaves of trees specifically have got a lot of defensive mechanisms, specifically tannins. And those tannins can eventually stop up the digestive system of an animal. And if you're not especially equipped to deal with them, you just don't get the nutrients from them. So I've watched buffalo doing a huge amount of browsing lately. And I think that's why, even though the drought is broken, they've been unable to continue eating. Now, if we look at impala, for example, they're also not looking great, but they can eat the shorter grass. They can also browse. They're mixed feeders, and buffalo really don't, I mean, they can browse, but they don't go into the category of mixed feeder. The browsers, the giraffe, the kudu, the nyala, they're all looking pretty good, I think. And so they've managed to, as soon as the first flush of leaves came from the trees, they ate the trees, and they're doing okay. It's the grazers that have had a little bit of trouble, and this, even things like steenbok are looking a bit ropey. They're starting to put on condition more, and interestingly, the female impala look better than the males, and I don't know why that should be the case, because the females, of course, are under huge nutritional and physiological strain. They're about to give birth. I'm hoping today, that was my bet today, that they would give birth. I haven't seen a little impala lamb yet, but if we see a steenbok, we'll pretend it's an impala lamb, and then we'll claim credit, won't we, Brian? No. Yes, we will. What do you mean, no? All right, TAYLA has got an elephant in plain view. Let's go and take a look at it.
Now, like James said, we've got a herd of elephants, which is fantastic, but unfortunately, they're exactly where the lions were this morning, and the lions are not here anymore, so I don't know where they have disappeared to. We're going to have to try and find them. And I wonder if this is not the herd of elephants that I heard earlier this morning in the distance, sort of moving through the drainage line, coming this way. You could hear them breaking branches and things. Seems as though they've finally arrived. You see that little one is quite happy, and they're very relaxed, these Ellies. So those lions could have moved already, but we'll sit and listen and see if they maybe do react. But like I said, there's an entire herd here. Some of them are have already been feeding exactly where those lions were laying. So I'm trying to work out which way they would have gone. I haven't seen any tracks just yet. So I'm trying to work it out. I think we'll go a little bit further north, and then we shall come back south and see what's going on. But at least we've got this wonderful little elephant to look at. A very wrinkly forehead as well. You see those crease lines? I always think that's quite funny on the various elephants, especially the youngsters. We know that Benjamin Button has got the wrinkliest head of all elephants I've ever seen. And this one has got beautiful horizontal lines on its head. Very carefully picking at what it wants to eat. And I don't know if you saw that, but there were a couple of impala that moved right behind that elephant. You can actually see them. And they also seem very relaxed. I think they've gone now. But the impala are everywhere. And we know what sound they make when they see the lions. So my suspicions are maybe they weren't even chased away. Maybe they just up and moved. At one point, I think about an hour after the show ended this morning, it bucketed down with rain. And I don't think that any of the trees that are around here would be sufficient cover, so perhaps they moved deeper into the thicket. But let's go north. Let's go towards sort of Gwari Pan side and just have a little look around there. Perhaps we'll also check Buffels Hook and see if there's any activity. But we'll see, won't we? And we have to find the Nkuhumas, because I have to tell you about the name that a name. Oh, hang on, let's check here for, of course, that little floppy-eared cove. No, just loads and loads of Impala tracks. Right. Leons, where are you? Well, the rain is actually getting a little bit heavier now. It's not quite just a mist anymore. You're going to have to put your cam cover. Okay, what we're going to have to do is David's going to very quickly have to put his cam cover on. There was the one rain cover we didn't have on because the rain was a little bit lighter. But what we're going to do is, because it's quite a hectic process, I think we're going to have to go across to James for this one. But we'll see you in a bit.
Well, it is a hectic process, of course, but if you're like Brian Joubert, you're prepared, aren't you, Brian? Yes. Now, here is a beautiful Nkuhuma tree as we drive underneath it. TAYLA is looking for the Nkuhuma Pride. They were named for this tree. This tree doesn't relate exactly which tree, but that's it. And that's a brown ivory tree, everybody. Berkemia discolor. And if you want to remember, if you are interested in sort of scientific names, which are not particularly interesting in and of themselves, I always remember that one because discolor is I don't know anybody whose favorite color is brown. Do you, Brian? Where's your uniforms were brown? Dreadful. Anyway, that's an aside. Now, there's some Impala down here. We're going to drive very carefully along the southern boundary to see if we can't perhaps find some evidence of Kurula. And then we might do the west, and see if we can't find Shadow as well. We had a lovely time with her the other afternoon, but I think she went straight back into Simbambili after that. Duncan, this is a question that comes up quite a lot, and it's an interesting one. You say, would we ever consider using GPS collars for all the animals? In other words, I'm assuming you mean so that we could find them more easily. And the answer is no, absolutely not. And the reason for that is that, well, first of all, it would be an extremely expensive process. Secondly, half the fun of doing what we do is that this is a natural system. It's a wild area. We don't know what we're going to see around the corner. That's a kind of safari life cliche. You never know what you're going to find around the next corner, and you don't. And that's part of the joy of being out here in the wild. Yes, of course, we could dart all the leopards and all the lions and put chips in them, and then we could have a big iPad display here or something like that, which had a map of all the animals and where they were. Distressingly, eventually, I suppose it will probably get to that, but hopefully not in my lifetime. And I just think it would ruin the experience. There's something also quite romantic about actually tracking, about finding the tracks of an animal and then following them and finding the animal, and it's one of the great skills that our human ancestors developed, and probably indeed the first science. So, you know, for lots of different reasons, I think and I hope that GPS tracking will never become a reality for something like this. It certainly would mean that we had cats on tap all the time, I suppose, but yeah, that would just, I think it would detract from the experience quite significantly. Of course, I say that now when we've had such a boom time, but when we get to February and everything's green, there's water all over the place, and we drive around for 3 hours and see one steenbok and one duiker, well, then I might want to reconsider. Huge termite mound on our left-hand side there. There isn't a leopard on top of it, so we'll just keep going, Brian, I think, don't you? Yes. Now, the roads, of course, are capped with a very hard crust after the rain, and so this firebreak road here, which is pretty much the southern boundary, is a good one to drive because it's a little bit softer. So if there are sort of fresh tracks, we probably would be able to see them on this road. But you don't know. Yes, Aaron, in New Zealand, it's been much, much, much too long. You say you feel like an Mvula sighting would be good on drive. It would be so nice. I haven't seen that cat for a very long time. But look, 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 look. Oh, damn it. That bird did its trick without warning us with its call. That's the red-crested Korhann, everybody. That's why I was reversing. I saw it walking. Anyway, let's just stick with it. Aaron, the last we heard of Mvula was when he was mating with Shiluva, I think it was. And his mating with Shiluva has resulted, since then he's disappeared, so I'm not sure where he is. I think he has been on and off on Buffelshoek, so I think he's just moved north. Shall we see if we can make it do it again? It's not fooled, is it, Brian? Now, the red-crested Korhann, for those of you who don't know, and many of you do know, of course, is also known as the suicide bird. And what it did when I got all excited was that it flew up and did its display. Where it flies up, it kind of stalls, and then plummets to the ground, opening its wings just in time not to hit the floor. And that's how it sort of marks its territory. Let's just see if it does it again, because it really is quite entertaining to watch. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll cheat a little bit. I'll play its call. My whistling clearly was not sufficient to inspire it. Come on, yes, field guide, Korhann, search, red-crested. Not on that page. Right, here we go. That's its beak clicking that goes before the call. You can hear the beak clicking, as can the bird. Here we go. He looks quite suspicious, doesn't he? Now, hopefully he'll do his display for us now. Come on, you recalcitrant bird. Okay, let's stop it now. Come on. I also heard in the background Brian's favourite relative of this bird, the black-bellied bustard, which went, Brian? Very good. Okay, I'm going to give it one more chance by giving the vehicle a bit of a slap. Hold on. Sometimes that works. Yes. Here we go. Watch, here we go. Here we go. Here he goes. Here he goes. Fly, bird. Julia, wondering whether he sleeps in the ground on a tree. He sleeps on a tree as far as I know. Why, bird? Come on. I've never got this on film. Here we go. Now fly. Fly, little bird, fly. He doesn't like the tapping, does he? He's so uncooperative. Okay, last chance. And he's called Red Crested, everybody. You only see the crest come out the back of his head there when he's thinking about mating. And he's trying to dance for a female, and he pushes this beautiful red crest out the back of his head. He's going to do this as you link away, I know it. Oh, bird. Look how beautifully camouflaged he is when he turns around. Isn't that brilliant? And actually, if you get close to them, if you look at the back of their heads, they look like snakes. Looks a little bit like a snake head. The black-bellied bustard more so. Deeply suspicious, isn't he, Brian? No. Oh well, we did our best. I don't suppose we should harass the poor fellow too much. Right, TAYLA MCCURDY, where others have failed, she has succeeded, and she has found the Nkuhuma Pride.
We did indeed. We just stumbled across them just off Quarry Pan Road, and we arrived just in the nick of time to see the wonderful tree climbing Nkuhumas, which we love so much. I'll turn this radio right off. There we go. And it was perfect. So we have to say thank you very much to the elephants, firstly, for pushing over this marula tree, probably a couple of years ago, because it has now made the perfect jungle gym for these lions to climb on, and a very easy one to climb up too. And I think that now that two of them have made their way up it, you probably heard the elephants trumpeting in the distance. I reckon that the others will come and join them up here as well. Now it seems as though all 5 lionesses are here, and all those wonderful 8 cubs are here too. But still no Birmingham. And they're edging closer and closer, of course, to Buffelshoek Dam. And this one has found a piece of baboon's tail, which is obviously quite nice to play with. Be careful, little ones, that's high up into that tree. You can see those younger cubs still struggling, unlike the older cub at the back, who is very well equipped at climbing now and really completed the balancing sort of section of their training. Now, I don't think that this is a very good place to sort of play fight on, as I think that even though these cubs are very tough, if they fell off, they'd probably be okay. Oh, just as I said that. Very embarrassed, running away now. Yeah. But luckily, cats always seem to land on their feet. Oh, there we go. That's a bit better. Safer option. Practice on that lower one first, and then make your way up to the top. Oh my goodness. They are a wild bunch this afternoon, just the way I like the Nkuhumas. Can you hear the zebras alarming? They're not far. We're quite close to Buffelshoek Dam, so I wonder if that's where the zebra are. The lions don't seem to be showing too much interest. The adults are actually looking at something in the drainage line. It's quite difficult, unfortunately, to see them because of all the trees. I've parked in favor, of course, of these cubs tree climbing. But, of course, if anything exciting happens with the adults, I will shuffle around and we'll get a better view. Did you see that little one just fall right off? Now, Trevor, you're wondering when was the last time that the Nkuhumas made a kill? I've got to try and think about it because I haven't really seen Nkuhumas. I think it wasn't yesterday. It was the day before yesterday. So two days ago, they were feeding on a buffalo. The last time was in fact when they were in Arathusa. So that could have even been 3 days ago, which is unusual because they were on a streak at one point where they were taking down a buffalo every single day. How incredible is that? So they're going to be hungry. Now this little one is tearing into what once was a baboon's tail. Of course, I'm talking about a plant, which is also known as black stick lily. That's a common name for it. And it's made the perfect chew toy. It's quite fibrous. You can see it pulling it apart quite easily. Excuse me. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? Now remember, we are on a live safari, and if you'd like to send in questions like Trevor just did, you can either hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you could even send us an email, questions@WildEarthTV. Now you can see I put my rain cover on, which I thought was a bit silly because it's actually quite hot now, but it's okay. I'll bake in here for a little bit. Oh, careful. You can see exactly what's happened here now. Earlier I said that once one climbs up the tree, they're probably all going to. Don't squash floppy ear. Now I'm going to tell you about the name for floppy ear in just a moment, but I want to very quickly answer a new viewer's question whose name is David. Now I know it wasn't the David on the camera because I didn't see him texting, and he would have got a stern reprimanding if he was doing that. But David, welcome, and I hope you're enjoying this. You've come at a really good time to start watching. Now, you were wondering, how old do lions get in the wild? There's a perfect bum shot over there that you can get. That's very nice. And I must tell you, David, it varies quite a bit. The females can live up to 15, 16 years old. That's quite old for a female. The males don't live as long. They typically will live not longer than about, I would say, 12 years old at absolute max. Sorry, I'm trying to think. Maybe about 10 years old would be a typical lifespan. And that's just because, unfortunately, life is quite tough for the males, especially once they get chucked out of their prides as young adults and have to sort of move in between the territories of other males until they're old enough to take on one for themselves. Now we're looking at our beautiful little floppy-eared girl. Now I want to tell you the name that I thought suited her quite nicely. And it's a Tsonga word for cheeky or naughty, something along those lines. Obviously, English language is quite complex, and some of these other African languages don't have exact words for the English words, of course. So Amanda, our chef, has helped me. I sort of described her personality. And she said, Delela is quite a nice word. So Delela. Remember I said it sounds similar to Delilah. Obviously it's not Delilah. So you spell Delela, D-E-L-E-L-A. And that supposedly means sort of cheeky, naughty, feisty. A word that sort of combines, and it describes her personality exactly. So what do you think of that? I think it's quite nice, but if not, well, we can always think of another one.
What is it?
Delela. Delela. There we go. David's also trying to learn it. So what do you think, girl? Do you like your name, Delela? Let's see, this lioness is coming to intervene with these cubs. Let's see what she does. Perhaps she's going to climb the tree too. Oh, my goodness. A second lioness is coming over. Party on the marula, and those two are playing tug of war. Now that's obviously quite, so careful. You're going to get pushed off. Oh. Not letting go though. Still holding on. Yeah, unfortunately, little one, you lost that battle. And I think it was unfair though. I think that young lion, or one of the lionesses, pushed it off. I think it was unfair. I think we need a rematch. Goodness, everybody's waking up now. Isn't this just absolutely magical? Oh, little one, maybe go to a lower branch. Oh, no, you're going to do it. There you go. This is where those claws come in handy. Look at that little one. Don't jump on Mom's back from there. Come on, go and see what those zebra are shouting all about. Oh my goodness, look at this. She's stretching right up. Let's see if she's going to jump up. Now, that was quite incredible. That really gave you an idea of how tall that lioness is. Perhaps if these lions move away, I'll go and stand next to that tree and you can really see how tall these lions actually are. But I'm not going to do it now, of course. That would be quite silly of me. But it looks like they're getting ready to move. Let's have a look at that lioness. Has got an injury on her bum. Can you see that? Not that one, the one that's just laid down. There's a raw... There we go. What's happened to her? No, now you've got to move, my lady. Sorry. Of course, as you can see, this is a live production. And when I say something, it seems as though the lions can understand me and then block my view. There we go. Now I can show you. Look at that. Those are puncture wounds. Those look like teeth mark or something. And I wonder if it's the same lioness that had the bite mark or on her elbow. I'm not sure. We saw it this morning. That's unusual. So perhaps there's been a bit of fighting going on, whether it was amongst the females or with a Birmingham. I'm not sure. And it seems as though there's some elephants moving in as well. I could hear them breaking branches. But let's take a moment. Let's just sit and listen. The zebra are alarming. The elephants are breaking branches. And, well, of course, the lions are climbing trees. Now, of course, as I said all those things, every single animal except the lions stopped doing what they were doing. You can see the two... Oh, careful. Now, Roger, you were wondering how old will the young lion cubs get before they start hunting? Well, it's quite interesting, and it's something that I saw for the first time was a couple of days ago, maybe almost a week ago now, where we saw the lionesses take down a young buffalo calf, but not kill it instantly. They sort of left it and allowed the young cubs to play with it and practice the techniques that they've been practicing on each other. So how incredible is that? I think that was an exception, though. Like I said, I've never seen that before. So I would say at about 1.5 years, they will start to go out on the hunts, but they will have to hang back and sort of watch and observe. But it's something that I'm quite excited for because they're going to ruin lots of hunts. Ooh, elephant just pushed a tree down. Sure, you could have heard that. It was very quick, though. I'm just listening. There's a lot going on here. Like I said, the zebras, the elephants. The lionesses are up and they want to go somewhere. I don't know where they want to go. Those two are having a fight over the log, getting very rough with each other. I don't know where to look this afternoon. There's action all over. And I'm so glad to hear that you all seem to be enjoying the name TAYLA that I've chosen for my favorite little lion. I'd like it. I think it's got quite a nice ring to it. Now, we're chatting briefly this morning, and we have been chatting over the past couple of weeks why we don't normally name the lionesses. But I think she's an exception. She had mange the worst, and we were all worried about her. But she's come back fighting, very much like her personality. So I think that she is deserving of a name. Ooh, they're getting very rough. Lorena, I have to agree with your comment. You said so much better than flip-flop. My goodness. 2 thumbs up to that comment. Sorry, Byron. We'll see. Hopefully James will approve. We'll have to see what he thinks of that name. They really are enjoying this marula tree. And I've been so lucky with the Nkuhumas since I've been here. I'm really just waiting for my luck to run out. I always catch them doing the most amazing things. They seem to be at the right time. So thank you, Nkuhumas, for being so wonderful. Oh my goodness, back up the tree with the baboon's tail again. Maybe this one is coming to challenge the winner of the previous tug-of-war battle. Let's see. Yes, I'm going to go over and steal it from you. Oh, these elephants are getting much closer. Sounds like they're just on the other side of the drainage line now, and I think that's what some of the lionesses are looking at, as perhaps just keeping a close eye, because they have got all these little cubs, and we have seen in the past how the lionesses react to the elephants. They usher the cubs away very quickly, as they do not want them to get squashed. Just incredible to see how now every one of these lions has got their own personalities. Some are more tolerant of others, and then you get little TAYLA, who has got no tolerance and patience at all, and she's very feisty, and if anybody jumps on her, she swats back and growls and shows her teeth. And you get others like this that sort of play with each other and bite each other and don't really make too much sounds. They just play quietly and dangle off trees and eat baboon's tail. You can see how much their sort of movements have improved. Oh, let me turn the radio on very quickly. Andrew for TAYLA. Are you coming to Korhann Road, like I called in earlier?
I'm in the Korhann now.
Okay, copy. Yeah, just keep coming down the road. I'm sitting on the road. You can't miss me.
Korhann Road, and now then Drangsbeck, right?
Yeah, affirm. It runs south of Hippo Pools Road. It goes back around, I think, towards Buffelshoek Dam, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Korhann Road.
Okay, perfect.
I'm just trying to get some of these guides into the sighting. Just double checking that I am. Yep, I am on Korhann Road. I'll just keep my radio on though, just in case anybody gets lost and we have to guide them in. I'm wondering though, if they do take a little stroll down to Buffelshoek Dam, not that there'd be any reason for them to have to go that way, because there's lots of pools of water from the mud wallows that are full, so they could drink from those. But it'd be quite interesting to see if they go over towards Buffelshoek Dam, and if they see that buffalo carcass, and if they go and start eating it. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Right. We're going to continue watching these Nkuhumas though, but I believe that James has got the animal that's making the same noises from across the drainage line.
I'm sure that's the noise she's hearing, all the snapping of trees. Here we go. Elephant cow, big one, sharp tusks, don't want to be on the end of those. She's checking us out quite carefully. The rest of her herd is behind her and then all the way around to the left. And she came across the road, gave us a bit of a look and a stare as if to say, don't cause trouble, Sonny Jim, and then she moved off. Now the rest of them are around here. And I think it's quite a large herd. Now, the other good news is that the weather seems to be clearing quite nicely. Look at this one here, Brian, moving its moving its tree. You see, they love doing this because underneath these trees, remember we said at the beginning of the season when they were pushing all these trees over, we said often that they create a whole little ecosystem underneath them, and there you can see the perfect guinea grass plant that he's looking for. That's what he wants to eat. And the guinea grass grows under the trees in the shade, especially under an acacia tree, because an acacia tree is actually part of the legume family. And what it does is it puts nitrogen into the soil, and the panicum or guinea grass likes to grow in nitrogen-rich soil, and that's why it grows underneath those trees like that. So a whole little ecosystem has been created for the guinea grass, and that elephant now taking advantage of it. I'm pretty sure that the elephant that pushed that tree over had no idea that that would be the case. We have a whole lot more here. Now that thing's eating a jackalberry tree, just doing some pruning. Thankfully not damaging it too badly. It's quite a young cow, and there comes another cow. Oh, and there's a big vicious bull. Like all the bulls, they just like to see if they can't terrify the wits out of somebody. He's also thinking about pulling over a tree, but he's also, this is him having a look at us. He's pretending to feed. I don't mean to laugh at you, but you do look rather hilarious when you turn around like that and stick your tail in the air. Hello. Look at this amazing dexterity in the foot. Hammer, you're a new viewer. It's wonderful to hear from you. Hello. You say, what time of year do they give birth? Hammer, they don't give birth at any specific time. They're aseasonal breeders, which means they'll breed any time of the year. And you'll probably find that there's a slight peak of birthing during the wet season. But certainly they can give birth at any time of the year, Hammer. It's a 22 months gestation period, and it's not cyclical in the same way that the antelope have a cyclical, like the Impala, for example, have a completely predictable birthing cycle. Can you see how the lights brightened up, everyone? I wonder if we won't have some sun before the end of the afternoon. It's turning into a really rather gorgeous time. It was very misty and kind of coastal, Brian said, as we moved out today, and it just seems to be lifting quite nicely now. Of course, this has been a wonderful day for the bush. Lots of rain all over, and of course for us, because we haven't been incinerated by the sun. All right, let's go a little bit forward because there's some others in front. To which I'm not entirely sure I know the answer. I'm just going to... Never mind that one, Brian. It's in such deep bush. Vanessa, you're saying, why do we never see elephants mating? I've seen it once, but that's in 12 or 13 years. And I'm going to suspect because they do it at night. I think that's probably why. When it does happen, it's not like it's unobvious. What happens is the female must acquiesce to the male's request, otherwise she just walks off and it becomes impossible for him. But she's also got to reverse into him, and in order for that to happen, there's a huge amount of noise that goes on. Bushes get broken, no doubt millipedes get trampled, and so do scorpions and other animals living in the ground. And they also squeal. They make a huge noise, that loud noise that they make. So it's not like you can't tell if it's happening. And I think it's probably largely because they engage in the activity of procreation at night. So I'm going to say, Vanessa, that's probably why. In the background you can hear the orange-breasted bushshrike. Gorgeous. Oh, and as the sun comes out, the Diedrich's cuckoos, at least the class's cuckoos, start to call. It's incredible. So do the larks, a couple of robins, some canaries, grey-headed bushshrike. All of them calling as it's got a little bit warmer. There's another little one coming across the road behind. You'll hear me pause slightly every time I say Brian's name because Byron is around and it's very difficult to say the two. Daniel, this is a very common misconception, and I had the same misconception until I became a guide. You say, why is it that elephant females are named after cows? They aren't. Daniel, what we do is we call female cattle cows and male cattle bulls. So in the same way that we call female elephants cows and male elephants bulls, and in the same way that we call female whales are called cows too, and the males are called bulls. So it's just come into kind of English usage that when we say cow, we mean female cattle, when in actual fact the term cow doesn't refer to cattle. It refers to lots of different kinds of female mammals. So that's why. And this other one is now dragging a marula tree out the way. Let's move slightly forward. So Daniel, does that answer your question? I'd say, it's certainly a very common misconception that people think that we are naming female animals after female cattle, but it isn't the case. So the animal that is a cow, or a traditional sort of farm animal cow, is actually, it's cattle. The name is cattle. That makes sense. And it comes from something called an auroch, which was a wild animal domesticated somewhere around North Africa in the Fertile Crescent about 10,000 years ago. Now we're watching these elephants being completely peaceful as they walk across the landscape here, feeding gently, not shouting, completely at peace, unthreatened. But Jarrett, who's a new viewer, and again, wonderful to have you with us. Thank you so much for talking to us this afternoon, Jarrett. You say, have I ever seen a predator attack an elephant? I haven't. Not in this area. I've certainly seen documentary evidence of it, and it happens up in Botswana quite a lot. There are prides of lions there that have specialized in killing elephants at the end of the dry season when they're very weak and they can't defend themselves. That's up in Savuti. Down here, the only record I have heard of is of a clan of hyenas killing a young elephant that was crippled. But otherwise, I've heard absolutely nothing of lions killing elephants in this area. It would only be lions or a giant clan of hyenas that could take on an elephant in this area. And elephants are so protective of their youngsters that it would be almost impossible. And the story of the hyena, and her name was Elvina, the elephant is what they called her. I'll tell you why they did that in a little while. She lived to about 5 years, and the herd looked after her and slowly walked with her for 5 years. And eventually, I think, probably at the back end of a very dry season, the herd realized that if they stayed with her, they would have to sacrifice themselves because they could not find enough food to eat at the speed at which she could walk. And also she was starting to require more and more to eat. She couldn't suckle anymore because she was a bit too old. And eventually the herd sacrificed her, which is a very, very sort of unusual thing for elephants to do. They're extremely defensive of each other. So it must have been, I imagine, a very heart-rending decision that herd had to make, that they were going to leave her to the elements, knowing almost certainly that she would die. Now that's, of course, anthropomorphizing the situation hugely. In other words, I'm placing human emotions into the animals, but I do believe elephants would have felt something in that kind of a way, something similar like that. Anyway, on we go. Brian, I'm going to seriously test your skills here. A false tiger moth just landed on this scraggly knobthorn next to, you see where the knobthorn touches the gardenia up top there? Just where the far left part of the gardenia touches the knobthorn. There's the false tiger moth. You just keep going in there, up a bit, and a bit more. Keep going. Are we on the same tree? Yes, we are, definitely. To the right, there. Right a bit, up. No, right again. On that, you see that green branch there? Yeah. You go up a little bit there.
I don't see it.
It was there. Oh dear, it's gone. Oh well, it's a very beautiful moth, everybody, and it's so beautiful that I'm going to show you a picture of it, because I don't think, if you saw it, you would think it was a butterfly, but it isn't. It's not a butterfly. Not at all, Brian. It's a moth.
A moth?
It's a diurnal moth, which means it's quite colourful.
So that's a picture.
Right. Have you got it? No. I'm going to try and find a picture. Oh, there it is. I found it already. My mummy gave me this book very long time ago, Brian, when I was a new guide. Oh. She thought I could do with some information. She was absolutely correct. There it is. See? And there is the false tiger moth. Sorry, Kirsten, you're going to have to go again with the name. Beautiful. Right, now we have a very special welcome from to the Rowan Prep School, Miss Parcell's class. Hello, welcome to Africa. I hope that you enjoyed this little interlude from your normal day in wintry England. I think you're in England. Yes, you are in England. That is correct. And, well, I hope that it's a wonderful sort of a summary sort of interlude to your winter. We're hopefully going to see some nice animals here today. Ask us lots of questions. Anything you like about Africa or the animals that we're hopefully going to see. We were sitting with some elephants, but they've wandered off into the bush. But they're going in a certain direction, so I think we're going to try and cut them off, and we'll try and see if we can't see them for you. So you're with us, I think, for the next hour or so, or maybe it's only half an hour. We're going to do our very best to find you as many things as possible. So while we drive, I'll just tell you a little bit about where we are. We're in what we call the Kruger Park, which many of you may have heard of. It's an iconic national park of Africa, and it's a huge area. And you're, of course, living in Surrey, which is a beautiful part of the world. I've been there myself. Oh, there's an elephant. Look. That elephant's breaking a tree. But this park, everybody, is about the size of Wales. Same size as the country of Wales. So it's a massive, massive area. We don't drive around the whole area, of course. We just drive through a small area of about 3,500 hectares. Now look at that young elephant, probably only about, let's say, 10 years or so. And very happy that the summer's come, and you can see it's eating green grass, you know, for a long time, all the way from, say, June up until about midway through October. It was grey and brown here. There was very little green stuff for the animals to eat. But we've had a bit of rain now, and so we've got Beautiful green grass coming out of the ground. You can see the trees have turned lovely spring, summer green. And that is a little elephant, probably a bull, just on the sort of back end of a really large herd. And Emma, you're wondering what the temperature is. It's about 26 or 25 degrees Celsius, which is a wonderful temperature. But yesterday, Emma, it was 37 degrees Celsius over here. So it was really, really hot indeed. And they're very happily eating there. Now, my friend TAYLA is sitting with probably the animal that all of you want to see the most while you're on safari with us. Go and take a look.
Hello, I want to say a very special hello and a welcome to all the lovely children at Rowan's Prep School. My name is TAYLA, and on camera with me we've got David. Now, I'm sure you're very excited for what I've got to show you. Have a look at the lions! And not just any lions, but my favorite pride of lions, or family of lions, in the whole wide world. Now, these are two young cubs that have decided that they quite like to climb trees this afternoon and practice their balancing and stalking. It looks like this one is going to maybe chase after one of its brothers or sisters. Let's see what they get up to. But in this pride of lions, there are 5 lionesses, so those are the girl lions. And then there are 8 little cubs, so little baby lions running around. But some of them seem to have settled down now. It looks like they are tired, and you know what it's like after you've had lunch and you've been playing around in the playground. You're quite tired afterwards, and you need to have a break, maybe even a little sleep. And I think that's what some of these lion cubs are now doing, is that they're hungry. They've been running around lots. They've used up all their energy. But hopefully there'll be 1 or 2 that will carry on playing with us. Playing for us, of course. Now, if you've got any questions for me, I'd love to hear from you. Hello, Sarah. Sarah, you would like to know, when do their manes start to grow? Now, normally we even start to see their manes sort of just starting to develop long tufts of hair on the side of their face from about 6 months old. But it takes them 6 years for the boys to grow a full mane. Isn't that a long time? Now, this one looks like it's trying to have a nap on this log, but if it's not careful, it's going to fall off. And one of the siblings, look at this one, is playing with a branch. And they're jumping up and pulling it down. But don't worry, this tree is not really getting hurt in the process. It's got very flexible branches, which makes for a great toy for these young cubs. Did you hear the zebra bleating in the background? Now, it sounds like the zebra is shouting about something, and it sounds like they're near a watering hole. And lions will eat zebras. I know it sounds sad, but it's very, very important that the lions eat too. Remember, we don't feed them. Now, Serena, you're wondering, how old are the lions, these little lions, when they start to hunt? They will get... Sorry, Serena, did you see the little cub jump up and fall on its back? So, Serena, when they get to about 1.5 years old, they're going to go out and join their parents on hunts. But they won't actively be trying to catch something. They'll be just standing back and watching and trying to learn, of course, from the parents. And when they get a bit older, when they get to about 2 years old, then they're probably going to start going in. Let's see if we can reposition very quickly, because it seems as though they've moved. So I'm just going to reverse and then move forward. Now, Lily, you're wondering, when do the mothers stop carrying the cubs in their mouth? Now, actually, quite early. They don't usually carry the young in their mouths for too long. Let's just get a nice gap for David. How's that, David? Is that all right? There we go. So we normally only see that for the first 2, maybe even 3 months of their life. And then, after that, they get big so quickly that they can't pick them up anymore. And as soon as also they can move around easily, often we see the moms will have more than one baby, and they will choose the cub to carry the sort of the one that isn't as quick at learning to run around as the others. But you can see they have settled down now. There's a big lioness. So there's looks like one of the moms. And all the little cubs now are settling down and going back to sleep. Now, Vivian, you're wondering how long are lions pregnant for? Not very long. For only 3.5 months. Can you believe that? That's not long at all. To be exact, almost about 110 days. So it's very difficult to tell when a lion is pregnant. Normally it's just the last couple of weeks. I can even hear some elephants breaking some trees in the distance on the other side of the drainage line. And if those elephants come too close, these lions will get up and run away with all their little cubs. Not that the lions are particularly scared of the elephants, but of course, you know, an elephant is quite big and can hurt these little cubs. Now, Harriet, you're wondering how long do the lions live for? Not very long. These big lionesses can live up to about 16 years old. And of course, the males don't live for as long as the females. They can live for about 12 years, but I would say an average age is probably about 10 years old. It looks like this little cub is hungry and wants to suckle. So he's saying, hello, how are you? Going to give each other a couple of kisses and licks and cuddles. And then I'm sure it's going to try and suckle and drink some milk. No, not that one. I'm sure it will try another one. That's the youngest lioness that cub is going up to. And they all love each other. No, she hasn't got any mammary glands for you to suckle from. Oh, this is so exciting. I believe that James has got the tallest creature in Africa for you.
Well, I've got the second tallest thing in Africa, everybody. Brian, the cameraman, is in fact the tallest creature in Africa. But this is the second tallest creature in Africa. I am, of course, talking absolute nonsense. That is the tallest creature, and he's a very tall example of a very tall creature. Is he not, Brian?
Yes.
Indeed he is. Probably about 4.5 meters tall. That is enormous. And you can see that he's got a big fat bump on the front of his head. Now, many of you, of course, would have bumped your heads during the course of your childhoods. I know I bumped my head a few times, didn't you, Brian?
I did.
Absolutely. And you get a little egg on the top of your head and you bump your head. And if you keep bumping your head again and again, eventually that egg will become permanent. And that's what's happened with just this giraffe. You can see he's got eggs behind his horns and in front of them and around his eyes. Now that's because he keeps bumping his head against other giraffes' heads and their necks and their legs, and they fight with each other when they want to mate with the females. And that's just generally what happens with basically all mammals around the world. They have a fight with each other. And you know, I'm sure many of you know what rugby is. Many of you probably watch or play rugby. And if you play rugby for long enough, you don't quite get the same kind of bumps on your head, but your skull will get a little bit thicker in the same way that giraffe has. And the bigger that, what we call, it's called a median horn, everyone. And the bigger that median horn is, the older we think he is. Emma, I'm going to have to ask you to answer your own question. You said, how many spots does a giraffe have? Emma, I've never counted. Brian, have you counted how many spots a giraffe has? No. Emma, I'm not sure I can count that high. Every single giraffe, Emma, will have different spots and a different number of spots. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit more quietly. And the other thing I want you to notice about this giraffe is that you can see him chewing, right? But you will notice that he hasn't eaten anything. Now, why do you think that might be the case? Why don't you send through an answer to me? I will ask you a question. You can tell me why you think that giraffe is chewing, but he's not eating anything. And I'll try and give you a clue. We'll just get to the side of him, and we'll see if I can't give you a little bit of a clue. Now, watch him carefully. Watch his cheeks. Oh, he's a very old fellow. You can see he looks old. He's lived a long, good life out here in the African wilderness. Now watch how the cheeks are getting smaller, smaller slowly. Watch him. Oh, he's going to swallow very shortly. Don't move, giraffe. Come on, fellow. Just keep watching, everybody. Be patient. There, he's swallowing. Now watch his mouth. Watch his mouth very carefully. Whoop. Did you see that, everyone? Now, Lucy, while you decide what on earth this giraffe is eating, you want to know how old he is. Well, it's very difficult to say because I haven't known him since he was a baby. And we think that giraffe lived probably in this area to around about 18 years, maybe 20 if they're very lucky. Now, this guy is pretty old, but he's in good condition. So I'm going to say that I think he's probably about 14 or 15. They've probably got a couple of years old left in him. Anybody have any idea what he's eating? Watch him do it again. I'll give you a clue, everyone. Think of a cow. Think of a cattle. Now, Rosie, another good question from you. You want to know how long a giraffe is pregnant for. Well, this giraffe obviously is a bull giraffe, so he's never going to be pregnant at all. But the females are pregnant for about 13 or 14 months. Now they are the only ruminant, and I've just given you the answer to my quiz, they're the only ruminant that has a gestation period, which is the period that they're pregnant, longer than a year. Here he goes again. You watching? Now what he's doing, everybody, I want you not to be put off your lunches or that you've just had. I think you've probably just had them. He's actually vomiting into his mouth and re-chewing his food. Now, that's totally normal. It's what all of the ruminants do, and I'm sure many of you in your science classes would have learnt about cattle and the fact that they regurgitate, they ruminate, they chew their food twice. Now, a giraffe is exactly the same. It's got 4 stomachs, and it first eats the leaves. They go down into the first stomach, and then they come up into the mouth again and then through the other parts of the stomach. And Emma and Lily, you thought he was grinding his teeth. No, he's not grinding his teeth. But interestingly, they do actually have to keep chewing because their teeth keep growing. And if they don't have to chew like he's chewing now, their teeth will just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it'll be very uncomfortable for them. Isn't that fascinating? And as you can see, our rain has gone away. The blue sky is out. The sun is going to set shortly in the west. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful evening for us here in South Africa, where the summer is with us, as you, shame poor people, are going into the English winter. And my sister lives in England, and she says, "Ooh, it's very cold there." And Amelie, that's a very good name. I have a friend with a daughter called Amelie. And you, very cleverly, you were the only one in the class who got the answer correct, that you knew that this giraffe was a ruminant, that he was re-chewing his food in the same way that cattle do. Brilliant. Isn't he a wonderful fellow? Okay, we're going to carry on, Brian and I, see what else we can find round the corner hereabouts. Let's head back to TAYLA and the wonderful Nkuhuma Pride.
These lions have gone straight to sleep. They've gone from playing around and jumping down. And you'd think that if you just got here, they'd been sleeping the whole afternoon, but little does anybody know. We got here just at the right time. Now, this is normally the time of the day where they start to wake up, but it seems as though they're sneaking in one last siesta. But they have moved quite a distance from where we left them earlier today. So I think that they're going to need to rest now if they are wanting to try and go hunting a little bit later. Now, Sophia, you're wondering if lions eat any plants. Now, not typically. They'll just eat meat, but sometimes when they're feeling a little bit ill, they will eat grass, and that'll help make them vomit and try and make them feel better if there is something inside them that is making them feel sick. But they've got very, very strong stomachs, so they are even able to eat meat that is rotting. But they're fast asleep now. Now, unfortunately, we won't be able to stay with these lions for too much longer because there are lots of people who want to come and have a look at them. So we'll just spend a couple more minutes here looking at these beautiful lions as they rest peacefully. Now you can see some of the little ones having something to drink. Layla, what a fantastic question. You would like to know if the lion's eyes are more sensitive during the day or at night. Now, lions have got fantastic eyesight at any time of the day, really. But at night, their eyes become much better than the animals that they are looking to hunt. So I think during the day, they're a bit more sensitive because there's more light. At night, their vision is not as good as what it is during the day, but that's okay, as long as it's better than the animals that they are hunting, and which indeed it is. You see that you can probably hear that there are a couple of vehicles moving around here. And there's very, very limited space as to how we can view these lions with all the trees around them, so we're going to have to pull out in just a moment. You can hear that little cub, though, is not ready to go to sleep. And you can see they're starting to look a little bit thin now. So hopefully after a good sleep later on this evening, they're perhaps going to go and look for something to eat. Maybe those zebra. Now, Amelie, you're wondering if one of these lions, these adult lions, are the leader. They don't all have, there's no sort of leader in a matriarchal group. Well, I don't think so. I think they are all superior, all sort of on the same level. Now, I reckon, though, depending on their age, I think the oldest one that'll have the most experience will probably take the lead in maybe a hunt. But they all sort of listen to each other. But it is the girls that run the pride. The boys, they come and go. And it's the first time we've seen the sun all day. It's been so cloudy here. So isn't this wonderful? So we're unfortunately going to have to say goodbye to these lions now, but I hope you enjoyed that. Maybe we'll come back here a little bit later and see what they get up to. But I hope you enjoyed that. But let's go back across to James and see if he's got anything.
We didn't have anything, everybody, but now we do. And it's a young elephant bull. He's coming towards us, so we're going to talk a little bit quietly. Just because we don't want him to affect him. We don't want to make a noise around him and give him a fright. And he's on his own because this is what bulls do. They live on their own from about the age of 17 or 18. I'd say he's probably about 17 or 18 now, which means he'll be a little bit afraid of being on his own for too long. And Vivian, while we look at that elephant now, you see where he's standing under that tree where the bird's flying? That'll give you an idea. You say, how tall can elephants grow? I'm just going to move now. Vivian, a big elephant will stand about 3 meters at the shoulder. So that's pretty tall. And sometimes a little bigger than that even, but about 3 meters at the shoulder. And by the shoulder, I don't know if I mean sort of the top of his back. And maybe you know about horses, and horses have withers are their shoulders. It's the same thing on an elephant, so it would be around about 3 meters at the wither. We'll just have one more look at him there. The reason I'm looking to the left is that I saw 2 very big birds of prey, but they've disappeared. Now, what I want you to try and do, everybody, is just be very quiet for the next 20 seconds. And when I say now, I want you to breathe in through your nose, and I'm going to tell you what it smells like to be in Africa. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Just listen carefully. Now shut your eyes, and what you can feel is the African sun on your face. It's a little bit hotter than your sun that you get there in England. And I can smell fresh rain on the ground. That smells about the same as it does in England. I can smell this elephant, which smells like sweet leather. If you imagine a saddle or something like that, with slightly sweeter smell than that. I can smell a spicy plant that I've just driven over by mistake, and I'll actually get out and fetch it for you now. It's a lovely sort of cinnamon type smell that's in the air. And I can hear a red-chested cuckoo going. An orange-breasted bushrat going. Right, now Lily, you're wondering how long their tusks can get. Well, Lily, they get very long indeed in some elephants. You know, sometimes those tusks can reach the ground. So that would be, I guess, almost 3 meters long if you were to go all the way to the root, which is inside the top of the skull. It could be about 3 meters long, but normally not that long. Normally the elephants in this particular area will get tusks probably about 1 meter long. Isn't he wonderful? Now I'm going to just quickly do something. I'm going to sneak out of the car. Now if you ever come to Africa, you don't do this. I'm just doing it because I know what I'm doing, and I can see the elephant's not watching us, and I'm just going to pick a plant. I'm not going to go close to him at all. Just quickly want to get this plant to show you what it smells like. Plant I was talking about. Oh, so lovely. It's a kind of I guess it's a little bit like a herb, like sort of saffron, I suppose. And look at the beautiful purple flowers. Isn't that gorgeous? And this has just come up as a result of the rain that we've had here. So we've got elephants and lions, but we've also got the most beautiful flowers that smell delicious. It's half the reason that I like to live out here, is for the smell of the bush. And you know what there is else here, Brian? It's a tiny little spider. Can you see it? It's just over where my finger is pointing now. It's on that floret there. There it is. See the little spider, everyone? That spider is probably about 1 millimeter wide by 2 millimeters long. Every little piece of vegetation here has got something that likes to eat it. And I think that this spider will be waiting for whatever insect it is that pollinates the plant. You can see there, it will come and pick up the pollen. That's amazing. All right, let's have one last look at this elephant, and then we'll head on and see what else we can find. There he is. He's going to be eating, everybody. By the time he's fully grown, he will weigh 6 tons, that's 6,000 kilograms, and he'll eat between 250 and 300 kilograms of food every single day. Just think about that. If all of you, you're about 9 and 10 years old, so you probably weigh, I'm guessing, around about 20 kilograms each. Probably even a little bit less than that. That elephant will eat the equivalent, if you imagine imagine 15 of you standing in a group, roughly the whole weight of your class. I'm imagining you've got a class of about 20 people or so. Every single one of you piled together on a scale, that's how much he will eat in one day when he is a fully grown bull, which will probably only be when he's about 35. Isn't that amazing? Okay, let's carry on and see what else we can find. We'll just nip around the corner here. We're heading towards a little waterhole. Maybe there'll be some buffalo lying there. Oh, sorry, I haven't plugged myself in, so I can't even hear your questions. There we are. Sorry about that. Could be in big trouble. Okay. All right, everybody, we're going to say goodbye to you. I hope you will join us on safari again. I hope you also have a wonderful day there in Surrey and enjoy what you learn. Right, and for the rest of you, we'll carry on and do as I said. We'll go and past the waterhole here. Doesn't seem to be anything going on there. We're still hoping for some tracks of Karula, our favourite female leopard. Now, there were some African hawk eagles flying through here, hunting, and that's why I was a little bit distracted at that elephant to start with. I hoped we might be able to see them. The first time I stopped for them, there they are. Can you see them, Brian? I bet you can, but I'm not sure you're going to be able to get them on the camera. They're in a marula tree, just in the middle of this block. You see them there? You got them. You can see them, but do you think you can get a picture of them? Maybe from here. You got them. They're there, I promise everybody. Brian will reveal them shortly. There they are. Now, that's not the best African hawk eagle sighting we'll ever have, but I just wanted to prove to you that I wasn't completely mad and that I saw them hunting through the woodland there. And we heard the squirrels going crazy and the mongoose going crazy as they flew off their perch. But it doesn't look like they were particularly successful. Oh well. Right, let's carry on down to Twin Dams. We'll take the route of the Mlwamati. TAYLA has rather macabrely made her way, I think, to Buffelshoek Dam, to quite a sad scene.